Hello everyone, I'm Francesca. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today we are going to be making the most delicious homemade garlic knots, fluffy homemade dough, toss in that garlicky olive oil, parsley. So good. These are a little time consuming to make only because we're making the dough from scratch, but you can always use a store-bought pizza dough instead. Full recipe is written out on my blog. There's a link in the description box down below for that. And all the ingredients are written out in the description box down below as well. There's also links for my cookbook, podcast, social media, and anything that I feel you might need for this recipe. So check out the description box. With all that being said, let's get into the recipe. Let's start off by making our dough. So I have my all-purpose flour in a nice big bowl. Then I'm going to add in some olive oil. Then I'm going to be using instant yeast. I like this better than the active dry yeast, so I don't have to wait for it to proof the 10 minutes. We're going to add in organic sugar. We're going to add in some salt, and then we're going to slowly add in water. I like to add it in bit by bit so I can adjust if the dough needs less water that day. You know, baking is very dependent on the weather, the atmosphere, just the humidity in the air. So I like to add it in slowly so that way if I don't need to add in all the water, I don't end up making it too wet. But we did use the full amount of water. So I'm just going to mix that with the spatula until it comes together really nicely. And it'll get to a certain point, and I always say this, but I know I want to get my hands in there. Like, it's just a feeling I have. I could see, I'm like, okay, the spatula has done all its work, and now it is time for me to get my hands in there. So we are going to knead this for about 5 to 7 minutes until it forms into a nice smooth ball. Of course, you can do this in a stand mixer with a dough attachment if you would prefer, if it's a lot for you to knead. But I don't know, I really love doing it by hand, and there's something nice about watching it go from that like tacky ball to that like nice smooth dough ball. So it should look something like this. This is what we're going for. I'm going to shape it into my final ball here, and then we're just going to let this proof for 1 to 2 hours. I'm going to add a little bit of olive oil on top, oil the dough, oil the bowl so that way nothing gets dry. Cover it with a clean dish towel, and I like to put mine in the oven, actually turned off of course, just so it stays nice and warm in there. If your dough takes a little bit longer to rise, don't worry, you just want it to be nice and doubled in size so it'll look something like this. Sometimes, especially in the summer when you have like the air conditioning on, you know, the dough might rise slower. That's why I like to put it in the oven, because it's just definitely warmer in there. Now I'm going to line my baking sheet with parchment paper just before we move on to the next step. So now is my favorite part. We're going to press that air out of the dough. Oh, look at that. I don't know why. There's just something about that feels so good when you get to do that. It's like the best feeling. So I want 24 garlic knots from this recipe. So I am just taking the weight of the dough, dividing that by 24 so I can get a gram measurement per garlic knot. You don't have to be this precise if you don't want to. And I'm just going to rip off little dough balls and set them to the side. We'll transform them into the knots in a second, but this way I can just make sure I got all 24 laid out. And you can make as many as you want from this recipe. You know, you can make 12, you can make 48. I mean, it's whatever you want. So now I'm going to start to roll out our garlic knot. So I take one dough ball and I'm just going to roll it with my hands into like a nice little log shape and then just tie it up in a knot. Very, very simple. The dough should not be very sticky. It should not like need you to use any flour. If you have to use a little flour, it's okay, but I had no problems at all making these without using any flour. So now I'm going to pop them on my baking sheet. They get a second proofing right now because it'll just make them chubbier, chewier, fluffier, everything that you want your garlic knot to be. So cover them, let them hang out for 30 minutes to 1 hour, and then we can bake them at 450 Fahrenheit for 13 to 15 minutes until nice and goldeny. All right, so now let's make our little sauce for this. I don't know what to call it. So we're gonna add in some olive oil to a nice big bowl. I'm using garlic powder. I'm not really measuring this, but probably somewhere about a half a teaspoon. And then some dried parsley and some salt. I'm just going to mix this together. Also, this bowl is huge, okay? I know this probably looks like there's not a lot in there, but there is. Give it a little taste and just adjust any flavors to your preference. I'm sure you're wondering why I'm not using fresh ingredients. I mean, you can, but the garlic powder has way more potency and it just is like less hassle. So these are our garlic knots. When they're done, they are still pretty light, but the bottoms are nice and golden and they're definitely cooked through. That's what we're going for. We're gonna pop them into our bowl, and they might even actually be a little bit hard when they come out of the oven, but as we shake them in the oil warms up and everything comes out great. I decided to add in some fresh parsley to this just to really make it look a little fancier and better. You do not need to do that if you don't feel like it, if you don't want to. And now they're done. That's it. They're so simple. Like, once you just let them do all the proofing for the dough, it's easy peasy done. And just, oh my goodness, don't you want to just pinch one? I just want to take one right off the screen. They're fluffy, they're chewy, they're everything that you want a garlic knot to be. All right, everyone, and those are our delicious garlic knots. I really hope you enjoyed it. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please make sure to like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. Helps channel out, helps us to grow and spread more vegan recipes. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for being here. I hope you all are doing well. And yeah, if you try these out, let me know how they go. Leave a comment down below, tag me on Instagram, leave a comment on the blog, wherever. I just love to hear back from you guys. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next week with another video. Bye.